So talk to us about your move from Seattle to Bellingham, how that happened, why you moved here, and everything like that.
Yeah. So I came here about 3.5 years ago, and I knew I wanted to start my real estate career somewhere that I ultimately wanted to end up because it's about 2-year process to ramp up in the business.
Yeah.
So I've always loved Bellingham. I think it offers the best of both worlds. It has a vibrant city center with a lot going on, live music scene, performing arts, great restaurants and bars, but still has kind of a smaller city feel to it. And then, of course, the lakes and mountains and bay, it's all beautiful. And so, I moved up here, started in 2018 and haven't looked back.
So, and how many people did you know when you moved to Bellingham?
0.
That is awesome. I grew up in Seattle like you did, and then I went to college here, and I'm one of those people who just stayed. But moving here knowing nobody and then starting an entirely new career, especially real estate, that matter, where you have to network and have to know a lot of people usually. So what made you do that knowing nobody? How did that end up working?
Yeah.
It's bold.
I know
bold.
it's pretty bold. I had kind of a midlife crisis, I guess. So I was turning 40 and I was just getting tired of living in downtown Seattle.
Yeah.
I'd been there for 8 years and it was becoming this, this traffic nightmare and lots of crime. And so I knew I wanted to get out of Seattle. So I was looking into, well, why don't I just look in the suburbs and maybe find something in Edmonds? A lot of my friends are going to West Seattle or
Sure.
Bellevue and whatnot. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, well, the traffic is one of the key issues that is prompting me from getting out of the city. And that still exists if you get out into the suburbs. So I thought, let me go way out. And then they call Bellingham an exurb, but it really is a city in its own right. We're up to 100,000 people here.
Yeah.
The college town keeps it really lively and active and an educated community too.
Growing up there and then going to college and then being here for a long time, you get used to this size city. And then when you go to Seattle, when I go to Seattle and I go to Woodinville, Bothell, even the east side where I was from, it's just even the traffic, you can't talk about it enough because it just adds this kind of anxiety and stress. Mm-hmm. And when I'm down there, I just think to myself, I could never live down here. And I did. I grew up there. Yeah. And I still, can't even imagine it.
Well, and you've been up here for 20 years.
Well, that's true.
So but it's gotten so much worse.
The traffic and everything like that.
But,
that's true.
Both of us, we're still 90 minutes away without traffic. And so, we're down there quite a bit. We're, once a month or so, visiting friends or family. But for the most part, people want to come up here and visit us for a getaway.
And it's 100,000 people. But you told me a story before about right when you moved up here. Tell that story because Bellingham I think it's cool that way where it's a community where it's big enough to where it's dynamic and you can get out and great restaurants and all that. But there's also this kind of connectivity about Bellingham that still exists, that kind of small
for sure.
town.
Yeah. So one of my good friends in Seattle connected me with one of her friends up here. And my first week in town, we went out for happy hour. And she said, Bellingham has such a small community feel. It's the smallest big town you'll ever know. And, sure enough, 20 minutes after meeting up with her, she had one of her friends joining us. And she said, I know you. And I said, well, I've just been here a few days, so maybe. Yeah. And she said, you bought a headboard off of Craigslist from me a few days ago. So we all ended up being friends, and we're still friends to this day. And then I have one other friend who I bought something from Craigslist on that I'm still good friends with.
Have you moved to Facebook Marketplace
now?
Yeah.
I'm like, Craigslist sometimes is a little dodgy. So, but Facebook Marketplace.
But you made friends on Craigslist.
I made friends on Craigslist.
So fair enough.
Yeah.
That's all good.
Yeah. And of course, they all have friends of friends. And I think it helps to kind of put yourself out there when you first move here too. Of course, now with COVID ending, it's a lot easier now to do more in-person activities, go out to see some live shows. We have such a good live music scene here.
Yeah, who did you just see?
So last week I was at Sean Colvin and Jason Isbell.
Yeah.
This coming Friday, I'm seeing Black Violin at Mount Baker Theater. But, even the smaller venues, Wild Buffalo is awesome too. But even like Boundary Bay and some of the other breweries will have some really cool like cover bands like Petty or Not and Space Band and
Oh yeah, well, Spaceman's great. And then, I haven't been to these shows, but I know, I listened to rap music when I was in high school, and I've seen Too Short come up here. I've seen
Sir
Sir
Mix-a-Lot.
Mix-a-Lot. Well, Sir Mix-a-Lot, Seattle, of course. But like, yeah, there's been some like good rappers that are
And
out
you
of their
saw Death
prime.
Cab too, right?
Oh, and I saw, yeah, and then
Yeah.
that Death Cab show. That was Death Cab, and who was the other at that show?
I didn't get to go because I
Okay.
was out of town that
Yeah.
weekend, but
Yeah, that was a great show too.
yeah.
That
But I
was,
mean, we're super close to Canada, so I'm
yeah,
going to see Santana at Abbotsford at the end of the
nice.
month, and so I mean, if you want to do fun activities, like Bellingham really does offer a ton of options. But if for like the major sporting events, the professional events, or for like the huge concerts, you know, Canada's really close. I mean,
Yeah.
Abbotsford is going to be like 45 minutes from here.
Yeah. Well, and, in Whistler and Vancouver and everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So when you're helping people make the move up here, you've established yourself, you're helping people relocate. Is there any reasons why that we haven't touched on already on why you're finding that there's a bigger surge of Seattle buyers now than ever moving up here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, COVID.
Right.
So now a lot of people are able to work from home. So that certainly expanded everyone's search parameters, and then you can get more for your money in this area. You know, it's not half price,
Sure.
but you do get more house for your money here, and then just the quality of life. Not dealing with the traffic and parking issues, and our street parking's free after 5 and on the weekends, and even in the public garages.
Yeah.
So it just makes it so much easier to get around, and we have a great interurban trail system, so people who want to walk or bike, pretty much the whole city is connected by trail system.
Yeah. And you're not going to get that in most areas of Seattle for sure. And, you mentioned COVID and remote working playing a huge role. A couple things that I've noticed, and I know you have too, is it could be somebody who is now all of a sudden working remotely, and then they're picking where they want to live, and then they choose
Mhm.
to live Bellingham because the better lifestyle, as you talked
Yeah.
about. There's also jobs where I've seen where they're now saying, okay, you only need to come in 1 day a week.
Right.
And a lot of people think, okay, if I only have to drive 1 day a week down there, maybe even 2 days a week, I'm
Mhm.
willing to do that to be in this better lifestyle because then maybe they're going to be moving out a little ways anyway. And then the other thing that's going the other direction that I've noticed is there's people who are established up here. They live up here. There's more and more Seattle companies that will hire you remotely,
Mhm.
because there's remote positions, especially if they know that you're within drive distance to be able to occasionally come down for a conference or a meeting or whatever.
Right.
And I know several people
Well,
up here.
Amazon is
Yeah.
the big one right
Yeah.
now,
And
so
Microsoft.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep, yeah.
So those kind of jobs, I know another friend who works for DocuSign, which is a huge electronics.
Well, or they want you near an international airport,
Sure.
and so we have, I don't know how many flights a day, probably 6 a day, that go to the Seattle hub and then shoot off to wherever you need to go. And so people who have national sales positions or regional sales positions, they can really live anywhere.
Yeah. Well, and Southwest Airlines coming here, that I don't even know if we've felt that yet because that's so new.
Right.
So
now it's Oakland and Las Vegas, and
yeah,
expanding.
Yeah. And Keith Zackel and I, he's back here on production. We interviewed the port about this, and they said that Southwest never comes in to an area to just do 2, that they're
Right.
ultimately going to have more.
Yeah, dipping their toe right now.
Yeah, so that's good. So, okay, now shifting to put your real estate hat on, you're helping people move here. You understand where they're coming from because you've done it, which is great. But what are you kind of outlining to somebody? You meet with somebody in the conference room, wherever, first time they're up here and they say, Nicole, we're interested in Bellingham, or we love Bellingham when we come and visit. We don't really know the neighborhoods. We don't really know the area that well. What's your first step as far as how you help them?
Mm-hmm. Well, I definitely want to find out what their needs are.
Sure.
And so their lifestyle, what they want to be close to, what's important to them, if they have kids or pets, elderly parents somewhere. We want to make sure that I find the right fit for them. But, we have so many different resources here at John L. Scott. And so our community spotlight videos, where we actually look at different neighborhoods within Bellingham, have been really helpful. And then also our broker stories. And so our agents in this office, they're telling everyone about their neighborhoods and what they love about their neighborhoods. And I think that's really fresh and fun to hear.
Yeah, I mean, we have. Thanks for plugging that. We have Bellingham Real Estate Stories, our channel that is dedicated to relocation information for people moving here, and we have general Bellingham neighborhoods, as you're noting, and then we also have agents who spotlight neighborhoods. You spotlighted Roosevelt and Sunnyland. Let's give them some good stuff as far as nuggets, as far as like what are some key things about different sections of Bellingham that you try to share, or different like kind of insights that you try to give people when they're moving up here.
So the core neighborhoods, those are that's the area between the Bay and Interstate 5, kind of the more historic areas. A lot of people tend to start their focus there, and they're cool neighborhoods, don't get me wrong. But they may not work for everyone. They tend to be smaller homes, 100+ years old. The train runs along the waterfront. So ultimately that may not be a good fit for someone who needs a big backyard and, a larger family. They may want to be on the east side of I-5 and like near Barkley and Silver Beach and those kind of neighborhoods. And so it's more about matching someone's lifestyle and priorities to the neighborhood. But yeah, there's some great options.
Yeah. I love how, there is kind of the different sections like you're talking about. There's the core neighborhoods, then there's kind of the Silver Beach and Barkley and Geneva area. And there's these different areas, but they're all so close. My mom moved up here, and she's used to living in Bellevue, where she had to time just to go down to like Target. She'd have to time what time of day. And if it wasn't the right time of day, it would take her 45 minutes to go 5 miles. And here she can literally go anywhere within 10 or 15 minutes. So that's, on one hand, we're showcasing the different neighborhoods and the different lifestyles. But on the other hand, pretty much everywhere in Bellingham is going to feel entirely different than probably where they're from, if they're from the greater Seattle area.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, you're not too far out. And I like to say we have a rush half hour. So from 5 to 5:30, it adds about 5 minutes extra.
And that's so frustrating.
I know. I know, it's amazing how quickly it changes. Like you think, wait a minute.
I'm on Sunset and I have to hit 2 red lights.
2 whole lights.
Yeah, this is so frustrating. I have to take 15 minutes to get here instead of 10. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if we keep bringing people here, then it might change.
Then it might take 20 instead of 15.
Yeah.
That's true. And that half-hour rush hour might turn into 45-minute rush hour. I don't know. God forbid. So any other kind of final tidbits that you'd want to share with people who are considering moving to Bellingham, who are moving to Bellingham? What other kind of things do you really make sure you want people to know?
Well, I mean, of course, I'm biased because I'm an agent here. But I really think it's important for people who are considering a move up here to work with a local agent. I know it's tempting if you have a good relationship with your agent in Seattle to just have them come up or not even come up half the time, write an offer. But we have such a tight-knit real estate community here. So that rapport and relationship is very important to help get all the information that we need to put together a strong offer for you. And then just the hyper-local knowledge. I mean, someone coming from Seattle is not going to know the difference between like Tweed 20 and Silver Beach. A lot of listings will say the community that it's in, but it won't really be in that neighborhood, right?
Right.
I mean,
yeah. Well, and then there's the functional just things that we can do. Like, obviously you shoot, I'm sure you FaceTime sometimes, like video previews,
Yeah. And with the market moving so fast, you really need to have boots on the ground in town. And so someone who can run out the day something goes on the market, do a FaceTime or a Zoom tour with you. It's so important, especially if you can't make it up yourself. I think so too.
Yeah. Any other final kind of parting thoughts? Or?
Well, I mean, just along the same lines of having a local realtor, it's important too to have a local lender.
Oh yeah.
So that
Good point.
The listing agent has done business with them before. They know that they're communicative and responsive, can close deals on time. We have the connections to the inspectors. A lot of times we're pre-inspecting homes now prior to making an offer. And we can do like walkthrough inspections to save money too, and do that on FaceTime.